Another player, a guy that we haven't talked about yet, but has been mentioned at different points on this show, from the Chicago White Sox, Dylan Cease, a big time starting pitcher available. If we look at his numbers for this season, Cease has been pretty okay for the White Sox this year. Not outstanding. I believe it's a 4.18 ERA, not a 4.81, but either way, it's not fantastic. It's sort of just okay. A 1.34 WHIP, 107.2 innings.
Dyslexia.
I get that. I feel that.
Wait. So what was it supposed to be?
It's supposed to be 4.18 ERA. Yeah. Yeah, he has a 3.77 FIP, still almost 11 Ks per nine. There's a lot to like with Dylan Cease. He was excellent last season. Dylan Cease had a 2.20 ERA a year ago. And he's kind of reminds me of a right-handed Robbie Ray a little bit. There's some shades of similarity there where he just walks too many guys, but his stuff is really good. And he also doesn't pitch quite as deeply into games as you might hope he would. If we look at some of the pros and cons here for acquiring one Dylan Cease from the White Sox, he is controllable. This is not a rental, unlike pretty much all of the other starters that we've talked about. $5.7 million in 2023, so it'd be just about $2 million for the rest of the year. And then he's arbitration eligible in both 2024 and 2025. So the D-backs would get him for 2 more seasons after this one. His ceiling is incredibly high, probably as high as any starting pitcher who is available. And he's been quite durable. 32 starts last year, 32 starts the year before that. Pitched a full season in 2020, even though it was shortened. So there's a durability factor there as far as, not really getting hurt. On the con side, he would cost a pretty penny. And he's a little bit volatile. He's been a little up and down at times. We've seen that this season. And he's also only averaging about 5.5 innings per start. So he's not a guy who's going to necessarily pitch super deep into games, kind of like Robbie Ray, as I said before.
Feels like even Gallen at times doesn't go all that deep, and he can, and I think he can at a higher rate than Cease does. But to me, this is the move, right? Everybody talks about how the Diamondbacks window revolves around Zach Gallen, right? His arbitration years line up perfectly with that timeline, right? Yeah. You're probably not going to re-sign either of them, but you hope in the 3-year stint, 2.5 now, that you have them, you're able to either develop A or B, find something else, a diamond in the rough somewhere else, right? Merrill Kelly-esque move.
And how often does that happen?
Not often,
right?
But it is a possibility. But what I do think is, I think Cease is worth the prospect haul that it would take to bring him here.
He very well could be.
He is your 2 or 3 that you want.
Yeah.
Right? That is, Stroman's a rental you're not going to re-sign. That's as good as Stroman has been. I think Cease fits in here very, very nicely. And the other thing I will mention is the Southside City Connect jerseys are quite possibly the best City Connect jerseys that have existed.
Wow.
That Southside jersey is incredible.
I think Lane Thomas's was pretty nice too.
It is.
the Nats got a good City Connect as well. I 100% agree with everything you said. I think Dylan Cease is the guy you're willing to empty the farm system for.
Huh.
I think it was Cogs in there was saying, if anybody can fix him, it's Strom, right?
Right.
It's you've seen what he's done with literally everybody else on the D-backs roster. I would love to have Dylan Cease from the very beginning when the D-backs were finally showing that they would be something. I was like, let's get Dylan Cease. Let's rooting against the White Sox, right? So that eventually they would be sellers. Just to get Dylan Cease. I don't know if the White Sox are going to get rid of him. I think it's a bit of a long shot.
Right.
But if he is available, you give them what they want.
Well, speaking of what they want, or maybe not at all what they want,
this is what Jesse would like to give them.
This is our trade idea for what Dylan Cease to the Diamondbacks could look like. Going to Chicago, right-handed pitcher Brandon Pfaadt, outfielder Alec Thomas, shortstop Blaze Alexander, and then left-handed pitcher Yu-Min Lin. This one's really tough. What the White Sox really need most right now, from what I can tell, is pitching. That's really what they need the most. They've got a number of starters that they're probably not going to bring back next season. So Brandon Pfaadt, if they're high on Brandon Pfaadt, this could make some sense for them. And the other guy that would sort of be the headliner here is Alek Thomas. And I don't really know exactly how they feel about him. There's obviously the Chicago connection, which is kind of fun. But they sort of have a full outfield right now. So I guess this would maybe push Luis Robert to playing right field,
much better.
Which would be a little weird because he's really excellent in center. So I'm not sure if I totally see the fit from the White Sox standpoint, but I don't know if the D-backs have another pitcher that they could offer that would really get the White Sox all that excited.
Yeah, I would say, Jesse, what's funny about this is the name that pains me the most is Yu-Min Lin, because I just think there's so much potential there. And obviously he's a prospect and you just never know what you're going to get. Prospects can be a crapshoot, but
yeah,
Yu-Min Lin has dominated pretty much everywhere he's gone in the minor league level. I mean, he just made it to AA, so it's not really saying all that much, but
sure.
Look, I love Alec, but this is what we've mentioned a bajillion times is this team has a plethora of left-handed hitting outfielders. Corbin has just enough defense in center field to keep you happy. Drew Jones is in the system. Obviously, you're probably not going to see him for 3 or 4 years. If you see him at all, I mean, once again, he's a prospect. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
But has grades out as plus defense. You have replacements in center field. Everybody talks about loving Alec for his defense, but you're not taking that much of a step down.
Yeah.
If you have Corbin out there.
Yeah, I agree. I've also been so interested in seeing what Yu-Min Lin can do. I want it like everywhere he's been, he's just absolutely dominating. So like when I saw that on there, I saw that in the rundown. I was like, oh, I don't know if I pull that one, but Dylan Cease is such a talented arm. There's so much upside there. I think you make it if it's possible.
Yeah, this is another one of those where, like, if we show this to White Sox fans, they would probably want to chop our heads off. But again, it goes back to, like, if you're the Diamondbacks, what would you really be willing to do?
Does it take Lawler to get it done?
That's kind of where I drew the line. Is I just don't think the Diamondbacks would actually do that
because Lawler looks like your future third baseman, shortstop, right?
Yeah.
Like he
probably shortstop. He's looked pretty good defensively.
And it all kind of hinges on how you grade out Geraldo Perdomo, right? Where you see where
probably for me, he's a second base. I think Perdomo fits as a second baseman. In the future.
I don't. It's just it's a good problem to have, right? You have too much talent in your farm system. I mean, I'll take that over where we were in 2021.
So all that to say, the White Sox probably wouldn't do this trade.
But I want him.
But I don't think it's like an unreasonable starting point for a conversation. And if the White Sox want Jordan Lawler, that's maybe where the conversations stop at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a controllable starter here who's probably better than any other controllable starter who could be available. And as you mentioned earlier, Jacob, this would be like a big move for the D-backs going in on the Zach Gallen years, right? Gallen is under team control through 2025. Cease is under team control through 2025.
This would be the window.
This would be like, all right, we've got Zach Gallen for 2 more years after this one, and we're going to go for it. And I think a lot of fans would probably respect that, even if the cost was pretty high.